that, back in 2017, up until the pandemic, it was very difficult to convince a government official that there's a better way to do things. But then during the pandemic, they're like, hey, you know what? I actually don't want to be next to anybody. And then I heard of this platform. So, tell me more about it. And turns out you can do everything that you do on pen and paper. You can do it on your phone through an application. And obviously, because the blockchain technology has really more like a bonus than a necessity. But in our case, that's the core of the application. So yeah, the pandemic, I think, escalated that adoption. Normally would have taken, maybe 5 to 10 years, that went to 1 to 2 years. And so now the politicians are much more receptive. I know with the market being down how it is, it's still more difficult, and we tend to pitch our project more like a technology and a cost-saving solution rather than a blockchain, because a lot of these people bought Bitcoin when it was 60,000, and they're not too happy right now. So we tend to, you have to phrase it very properly and accurately depending on who you're talking to. That's number one. Number two, though, there is definitely an appetite, and we do it in such a way that, well, first of all, we have to convince the local government and the federal government, because most of these countries, they have multiple ways of doing the same thing, and they're all official. Like in Honduras, there are 12 or 13 different organizations that record properties. None of them talk to each other, by the way. So it's a big mess.
Got it.
And while there's federal records, there's also local records, and they both have the right to record. So we have to go through each one independently and convince them both independently. Congress separate from the local government, and et cetera, et cetera. But the way we're doing it is we have pilot projects on the local level where it's a full donation of the tech to the government, where we, at our own expense, tokenize 10 to 100,000 properties. But then once it's working, we use their own laws to expand to a national level, because our contract, the way it's written from its original format,
right,
basically ensures that as long as we follow all the regulations, we go nationally and nobody can compete with us.